There he
There,
is.
there you are.
What's up, handsome?
What's up, Pastor Judah? I was there last night. I was
Oh,
at
you were?
Zoe Pastors Gathering. I saw your talk. It was incredible. It's good to be here right now, though.
Come on, man. So, Vance, bro, you're pastor in a community. You started a company called Overflow.
Yeah.
Um, bro, I'm blown away by your story. And last night, Braylon and I were talking kind of after the event on my way home and kind of getting your whole story. You went to Churchome. So tell
Yeah.
me a little bit, tell our audience a little bit about your journey and your smile is electric already. My God, I haven't seen a smile that good since Magic Johnson.
Likewise. So, my wife and I, we went to the University of Washington, go Huskies,
Let's go.
from 2007 to 2011. And so my wife, Kim, she actually was a small group leader in the UD campus.
Oh my God.
Yeah, yeah. So I joined the church. My first Wednesday night was in 2010. She was already a leader at Church Home.
Yeah.
I was just coming in, but it was like her domain, her territory. So God spoke to me to go back to church. I grew up in the church, so God spoke to me to go back to church. Ended up finding Church Home UD campus. I walk in. I come in early because I'm trying to be obedient to God, right? I co- I come in early, about 10 minutes early. Worship hasn't even started, and this cute little Asian girl comes towards me, makes a beeline for me, and she goes, Vance, you don't know me, but I know you. You are the only Filipino on the Kentwood basketball team, and you are Area 5 DECA president. Okay, bye. And then she walked away.
Ah, are you serious?
I'm serious. The next day, I saw her. She was in my marketing class, and I asked if she wanted to study together. She thought she was going to land an A, but I just wanted quality time. And she's now my wife for 10 years. We have four beautiful kids, all under the age of 6. So you
Oh
can pray
my
for
God,
us.
bro. Are you okay? Are you making it? You're treading water.
Man, treading water, it's full in the Roush household, but it's fun and it's been amazing. But church home has been a critical part of our story. We got married at the UD campus by Pastor Mark Venti back in 2011.
Bro, that's incredible. I've known Mark since he was in high school, like actually middle school. And this just makes me old, bro. Like all these incredible ministers, pastors, entrepreneurs like yourself. And you're like, dude, I was a kid when I came to your church. It's like, oh, God. God. Um, bro, tell me about the church you started and tell me about Overflow, this incredible company that you built. And all this, in a lot of ways, some of this is news to me, so it's super exciting. Just so everyone out there, like this is real emotion. I've heard so much about Vance recently, and just excited about what you're doing, and I know it'll inspire a lot of people.
I appreciate that, Pastor Judah. So yeah, the church we started with our lead pastors Adam and Kira Smallcombe. They're from Australia. Is a church called Vive Church in the Silicon Valley. So we started the first location of Vive Church in Palo Alto, right across the street from Google.
Whoa.
Yeah, yeah. So that was back in 2012. Church planting story. You know this, Pastor Judah, but we started with 7 people in a living room back in 2012, about 10 years ago. And what God has done in, this 10 years is nothing short of a miracle. We have about 4,000 people now that call Vive Church home, which is incredible. Yeah, and so we have 10 locations, right? All of them are bump in, bump out, pop-up church style. We love that. Anything to facilitate the gospel
Come
and the
on.
good news of Jesus. So we'll do anything and everything to be able to do that. But by the grace of God, we were able to purchase our first location so we can give some relief to our teams and actually fix some stuff in place. And so we bought a pretty iconic building across the street from Google. So it's incredible. We move in this August. So that's a little bit about Vive Church.
Tell me, Vance, from your perspective, so much is happening. The world's changing so fast. It's a very, very interesting time, and I think it's the gap between generations seems a little bit larger right
Yeah.
now. And what I mean by that is like what a 30-year-old has seen of the world in terms of the technological age and what this 43-year-old has seen, or what a 53 or 63-year-old has seen, is so different. So how you understand the landscape of faith, community, contributions, what you're building at Overflow. Tell us a little bit about the convergence and really the intersection we find ourselves in as communities of faith in the technological age. Since your building is literally across the street from Google, I think you're qualified.
Yeah, I mean, what's been really cool is how God has used all these intersections to really produce this culture of innovation that we have in the
Wow.
spaces that we live in, which has been awesome. So, fast forward the journey of Vive Church and church planning and building that. Simultaneous to that, I'm working actually at Google. So that's where I started my career. And so I have this tech journey as well, kind of happening all simultaneously. And so you fast forward that a little bit, 2000 to 2019, and a bunch of people in our church, so they know me as executive pastor at the church, and they would come up to me saying, "Hey, Vance, I love what the church is doing." Similar to Churchome, we partner with a lot of nonprofits and philanthropic initiatives in our community, and we had people, not even really maybe believers, people that don't have the revelation of maybe even giving yet or true generosity biblically, but wanted to contribute, wanted to be a part of everything that was God was doing through the church. And so they came up to me saying, "Hey, Vance, we would love to give, but the only way that I can actually give generously is through my stock portfolio or my crypto wallet." And this is a little bit embarrassing, but I didn't at that time even know how to receive those type of donations, Pastor Judah. And
Most of
so,
us don't, Vance.
okay,
Most,
okay.
to be clear.
And so when I started hearing this more and more, I started like putting two and two together. Well, I don't know how to receive these gifts, but I know they work at Facebook, so I should figure it out. So what I did was I went to the local brokerage shop, Fidelity, here in our town, and I went into the branch and I was like, I need to open up a brokerage account. I think people want to donate stocks to the church. And so they opened it up. It took about 3 weeks. It was a little bit painful, but we got it done. And then I gave this information to these prospective givers that wanted to give. And I waited 6 weeks. I'm like refreshing the brokerage account. Um, Nothing's coming in. And I'm like, okay, this is really strange because at least 12 people I know told me that they wanted to contribute and be
Right.
part of what we were doing and the initiatives that we were trying to complete. And so I had a little bit of an awkward conversation with a member. I said, "Hey, remember that gift that you said that you wanted to give? Do you have all the information that you need? I gave you the brokerage account information." And this is what was the initiation of Overflow. He said this, Pastor Judy. He said, "Vance, I'm so sorry. The information you gave me is great. I gave it to my brokerage account, and they told me to download a form, physically fill it out, and fax it in. I just haven't had a chance to do it, but I'll get it done." And that's when maybe it was the Spirit of God or the Thai food last night told me that if you tell a millennial to fax in anything, it's just not going to happen, right? If you tell actually anybody in any generation, in an Amazon generation, to do anything manual or inconvenient, it's going to be a lot more difficult. And so actually what I felt deeply in my spirit is, hey, if we could just actually remove a little bit of friction, maybe it would unlock unprecedented amounts of generosity. And
Come
so we built Overflow October 2019. I emailed our whole church November 2019, and I just said, "Hey, I heard some of you want to give generously through different forms, such as stock and crypto. By the way, I've learned that it's also tax efficient to do it. So it's a win-win situation. You can actually do it now completely online through this new platform called Overflow." And Pastor Judah, after I sent that email, about 1,000 active recurring donors at the church at that time, 32 people responded, and we raised $1.1 million in 3 days.
3 days.
3 days.
Ladies and gentlemen, I've never heard this part. I've never heard this story. I'm being so serious. Whoa. So were you blown away by that? Was that surprising to you?
I was blown away. This is what I was blown away about. It wasn't actually even the amount, although that was a blessing and it allowed us to do a lot of incredible initiatives to reach the community. But what I was blown away with was that people want to give. People are wired to give. And it's not that I need to twist somebody's arm or manipulate them or even try to convince them. I just need to invite them and remove every single barrier that I can
Come
so
on.
that they can fulfill what they were already created to do. And so since then, I've gone in so deep in the topic of generosity, biblically, scientifically, spiritually, and that's what we're passionate about at Overflow. So our mission is to inspire the world to give.
How simple is that to inspire the world to give? I got news for you, man. I can get behind that, to say the very, very least.
Yeah.
Isn't it interesting? We always think that it's the receiver that is the most
Mm,
benefited. We always think the person that is actually in need and receives an answer to their prayer, like they're receiving the most. But actually, Jesus said, "You'll be far happier giving than you ever will be getting."
wow.
Getting is fun, and everybody likes
Wow.
on their birthday. But giving is really where a lot of the magic and meaning of the human experience kind of unfolds. Wouldn't you agree?
I agree. I love that scripture. We're based on a scripture as well. Proverbs 11:24. The
Mm.
world of the generous gets larger and larger,
And the world of the stingy
gets
gets small.
smaller and smaller. And so I actually read this study, Pastor Judah, so UC Berkeley did a study and they found it's called the science of generosity. They
Whoa.
found that when you give financially, not of your time, that's great too, but if you give financially, it releases a chemical called oxytocin. And that's the precursor to the feeling of safety and security.
Oh my goodness.
If I were to take that beanie off your head, if we were in person, if I were to take that beanie off your head, it would actually release a chemical called vasopressin, which is on the same level of the precursor to the feeling of fear.
Whoa.
And so, God, the way He's designed us and created us is actually to live a life to give more than we take. If we want to live a life of safety, security, and peace over fear, we need to have a posture to be giving more than we take. Isn't that beautiful?
So beautiful. And I love that thing really about Instagram, and I love her so much. So she just keeps calling. And I love her. And I try to tell her, like, Mom, I'm on an Instagram live, Mom, you know. But it's so cool to live in the technological age where science and data and research is actually doubling down on the ways of Jesus and the teachings of Jesus and the lifestyle of Jesus and almost the trajectory that Jesus introduces us to in life. And that trajectory is one of giving. And actually, I've discovered, Vance, that even the planning and preparation to give can be exhilarating, and it seems to release endorphins in my body. The Bible actually speaks about how a generous man makes plans. A generous man,
Wow.
they actually plan and prepare. Oftentimes, it's funny. We plan and prepare for retirement. We plan and prepare for that vacation. We plan and prepare for college. We plan and prepare for careers. We plan and prepare for a number of different things in our life, but we oftentimes don't plan and prepare to be generous. But a generous person makes generous plans. And I got to be honest with you, even before I reach some of my giving goals, I've always had giving goals in my 20s. I had giving goals in my 30s. I had giving goals in my 40s, 50s, and 60s. I've yet to get to write down my giving goals for my 70s and that decade of my life. I have noticed I'm always a decade ahead. In some cases, I've been 2 decades ahead because I really believe that God loves the partnership of generosity. He wants to show us His generous ways. And I think oftentimes when we plan, to be generous, first of all, you have a far better chance of being generous, but I think you also get the benefit even before you arrive at, let's say you wanted to give $500 away, and maybe you only have 50 saved and prepared to give, but already you're starting
Yes.
to get the sensations that maybe you're talking about scientifically.
Oh, I love that. I love that. That's beautiful. I mean, something I've been inspired by, Pastor Judah, like my approach to entrepreneurship
Mm.
has simply been to try to solve as many problems as I can to
Wow.
serve people, right? I think there's a lot of time situations where solutions can be running after problems, right? But actually, the person that understands the problem and the pain the deepest as a byproduct will create the best solution,
Wow.
right? And so, what I've been inspired by is your work and your team's work with the Church Home app, with even Faithful, which you shouted out earlier. Marissa is fantastic, phenomenal, by the way. I've become a fast friend with her in the past couple months. But I would love to hear your perspective on some of the problems you all are tackling and where you're seeing the future of technology and church colliding.
Man, I feel like the answer is always people. The
Yeah.
problem is always people, and the answer is always people in a way.
Yes.
And I think honestly, Vance, I think what you and Kim are doing and your four beautiful children. So you're Filipino. What's your wife?
She's Vietnamese Chinese.
Oh my, you have the most beautiful children in the world. I hate my. All right, so I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Um, but your beautiful family, and I think you and Kim leaning in and saying, God, we're going to offer our time, energy, and effort to be a part of the solution. And nobody is the solution of themselves. Only Jesus is the
Mm,
solution, but we all play a part. And I really want people to catch what you're saying, Vance, because I think it actually is the answer to your question to me in terms of what's happening in the church and technology and the intersection. I really just believe the intersection has to be filled with people willing to say, I'm going to sit here, I'm going to live here, I'm going to be here, I'm going to be across the street from Google, I'm going to work for Google, I'm going to do church, I'm going to be an entrepreneur. And I do think that we're at a really interesting place in church history where I think ministers, incredible women and men who are ministering, teaching, preaching, loving, leading in faith communities can also simultaneously live across from Google, work at Google, have companies that are filling needs and meeting where the pain and the sticky parts are in our society. So I guess my answer would be, Vance, I think it's the likes of you and Kim who are saying, hey,
mm,
I'll throw my hat in the ring and say, God, here I am. Move my family, reorient my family, challenge me, push me, prod me. I'll be a part of the solution. And I think more than anything, even what's happened in Church Home, it's like you, Vance. I saw a problem. I saw a problem, which was 97 or almost 97% of church growth in 2017, United States of America, was transfer growth. So we're just
wow.
swapping Christians. We're not telling the story of Jesus to people who are broken, hurting, and lost, and yet to receive his forgiveness. And so I thought, well, there's the problem. What's the solution? And that's where innovation oftentimes happens, unfortunately, in the environment of pain. And where pain is most,
Wow.
oftentimes innovation is most prevalent. And I think that's what's happening for you and me. Like we just saw, like, wait, people can't give because it's so hard. Or in my case, it's like people can't hear the message of Jesus and feel like they belong because going to church is a lot like walking into a country club and you wonder, do I have a collared shirt? Am I allowed to wear a beanie? What? And we've got to just barriers of entry are just being destroyed and being dismantled. And that's what you just said a moment ago. You are removing barriers of entry rather than telling people you're not generous. No one's generous anymore. Nobody gives anymore. Well, I think part of it is just like, dude, I can't fax in, what I want to give, homie. Like, can you make it a little bit easier? And that's what Overflow is doing. And my passion, man, is to highlight incredible entities and companies and movements really like Overflow, which can dramatically increase people's overall well-being because if people give more, they're going to be alive more. I love the concept of being fully human. I want to truly have the full human experience. And man, if you don't have generosity as a reoccurring exercise in your life, you won't have the fulfillment that you could have. Wouldn't you agree?
I so agree with that. And I love the spirit of what you're communicating because it's this really spirit of God, I believe, where we're breaking off limitation on the church,
Wow.
right? We're breaking off any sort of limited mindset. If you think about it, in some ways, we can take real great chapters from really big corporations like Amazon, great Seattle company, by the way. Go Hawks. I'm a 12. By the way, Russell Wilson, I'm hurt.
Well, Vance, I must say, I always did love the Broncos. Okay, I just started loving the Broncos, but I'm a huge Denver Bronco fan now. Go Broncos.
Oh, that's so funny.
Seahawks fan.
Yeah, so we can take a chapter from, big entities like Amazon and Apple. And what I take the chapter from is this: they're based on first principle truth, right? That's why they become ubiquitous. So what is Apple based on? The first principle truth that humans want things simple. So that's why we have Apple products, right? What's the first principle truth that Amazon is built off of, right? The first principle truth that Amazon is built off of is cheaper and faster. As long as humans exist, they're going to want things cheaper and faster. So they become ubiquitous. At Overflow, we believe that people are built and wired and created to give. And so, as long as human beings are around, they're going to need platforms and technology to be able to unlock generosity in their life more and more. And I think the thing about the church, which we can just break limitation off of, is at the end of the day, people need Jesus. And so, if we can take the same approach as some of these models, successful models with the Holy Spirit guiding us, that secret advantage, that secret weapon that we have. But if we can break off limitation and understand there's a first principle truth that every single human being on the planet deserves to hear the message of Jesus and his grace and
Wow.
his love, whether it's through an app, whether it's through an in-person gathering, whether it's through a hybrid model, whether it's through the metaverse. I don't know, let's get NFTs involved. I'm not sure. Whatever medium it
Right?
is, let's break off limitation and let's exist in those spaces.
Oh my gosh, I love what you just said. You said, I'm not sure. And I think people are waiting to be sure to do anything. And guess what? In today's society and world, you're never going to be sure. You're never going to be sure. And I don't mean to be crass or crude, but I could just talk to white people. I love white people, but I'm telling you, white people, like if you're waiting to be sure to understand what it's like to be a black or brown person in this country to have conversations, if you're waiting to be sure and fully confident, like you're never going to enter into another man or another man's world. Technology, if you're going to wait till you're sure about technology, technology is changing at a degree that you'll never be sure. So we've got to lean in even when we're unsure, even when things aren't completely clear, even when we don't understand it all. And the truth is, we don't understand each other fully and completely and what each other's journey is going to be like. But man, isn't this so exciting? We can put Jesus at the center of it all and say, let's jump in head first and let's start having the necessary endeavors and conversations and engagement to do that. I want to ask a very candid conversation, Vance. How is the church doing as an American Filipino man? By the way, I love the Philippines. I've been to the Philippines multiplicity of times. Ladies and gentlemen, I will go on record to say that the Filipino people are the happiest, most gregarious culture and people I have ever met in my whole life. And Filipinos have changed my life. I really, really mean that, Vance. I have had so many encounters with Filipino men and women that have encouraged me and that have had smiles. I mean, your smile is epic. But can I ask you, how are we doing? How are we doing your wife's unique journey, your unique journey, and looking forward into your kids' unique journey with their heritage and background? How is the church doing in that regard?
We have a lot of work to do. We got a lot of work to do.
Wow.
I will say this, that there's also a lot of hope, right? I stepped into a community at the University District on Greek Row,
Yeah.
right, which is another like element in and of itself, right? Where I came in to a community that I felt welcome and accepted. Yeah, it was another Asian girl that came up to me specifically, but generally I felt welcome in that community. And there are communities like that. We believe Vive. The community that we're leading is one of those. So there's a lot of work, but I believe there's a lot of hope. And so I really am excited to see people leaning in to that more. One thing I'm personally proud of is that I haven't met a ton of Filipino American, generally Asian American pastors, and I'm not a lead pastor, but I serve on the pastoral team that are on a pastoral team of a church that is multi-ethnic,
Whoa.
right? Some Asian American pastors that I know, or some Asian pastors that I know, are leading predominantly Asian churches, right? And so I do think that part of it is the intentionality around leadership development, right? And leadership opportunity, which is something that we don't take lightly in our community. And I've seen an intentional effort from communities like Churchome as well, which is why I think there's also a lot of hope while still needing a lot of work to do.
Why do you think that oftentimes in this case, ethnicity is almost ignored and pretending like it's not there when it's right there in front of us and it was intended to be right in front of us because God made it beautiful and wonderful, and all the differences and diversities and culture and food and hue and melanin, all of it is like God just telling us who he is in all of his beautiful ways. Why do you think we ignore it? Why do you think we are we scared?
Fear. Oh, I think you just nailed it, right? Fear of the unknown.
Wow.
My pastor says this, that the reason why there's fear is because you're in an unknown space.
Mm,
Okay. But what's so interesting is that's also where faith resides,
wow.
in that unknown space. So if you
Yeah.
think about it, fear and faith reside in the unknown simultaneously. Which will you choose? Which
Wow,
will you choose?
man.
Right. And I think that is a pressing question that we need to continue to ask ourselves. Are we going to lean into fear? Or are we going to lean into faith, even in the midst of fear? Right? Like I don't even actually think faith is not having doubt. I think it's choosing to believe in the midst of doubt. Right?
Wow. And it's interesting. There is oftentimes those moments in life where all you can see is fear, but just as relevant and prevalent is the faith that's available to you to trust God.
Amen.
But what we don't know, we oftentimes, well, what we've never experienced, we don't understand. We get afraid, and we miss out on a depth and dimension of life. Once again, getting back to being fully human and fully alive. Oh, God, help us to be truly fully alive. And to be truly fully alive is to welcome and
Yeah.
embrace and move towards all of the beautiful differences in our
Mm.
world, specifically different human beings. Like, what an honor and what a privilege it is. And I want to thank you for your leadership. I want to thank you for your courage. I want to thank you for your fortitude. I want to thank you for your stick to itness. I want to thank
Mm.
you for intentionality. And I want to thank you for your faith and for your risk. I want to thank you for marrying Kim. I want to thank you for taking care of those four babies. And I just want you to know that we're really, really excited about the community you're leading, and so grateful for Overflow, man. And more than anything, I hope, well, I was saying more than anything, one thing, but more than anything, two things that people will take away from this call. And that is, man, where there is pain, there's an opportunity
Mm.
for innovation and an opportunity to meet a need. And that is our privilege and our honor to do so. And secondly, man, we none of us are sure
No.
completely. Uh, we live in this unsure space where we just keep trusting God. And I want people to access Overflow, look into Overflow. I think every pastor and every community and every church out there should literally ask themselves, are people able to give in our community through
Amen.
their portfolio, things like crypto? Because I want to say it one more time, it's wild, man. In 3 days, 1.1 million was given and raised, and that's incredible. I love you, man. How old are you?
Oh,
I don't
Pastor
even.
Judah, I love you. I receive all of that. I feel really exhorted from all those words, and just know that, over a decade ago, You led and empowered other people to continue to lead a community where my wife and I really started our marriage and our relationship. And it's blossomed into something we believe is really, really special. But that was our origin story. So we appreciate you and we're inspired by everything that you're doing.
Thank you, Vance. I hear that, and it means so much. It also means I'm not as young as I think I am.
No, 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 no. You were young. You were the first person I saw white pants at church. Wear white pants at church. That was the first time I saw it. And I was like, this is home. So it's good.
This guy's not well. He's wearing white pants in the Northwest. Oh man, bro, I appreciate you. Please tell. I know I saw Kim on here. Kim, we love you, and thanks for hanging out last night, even at Bel Air Church. That was so fun with Chad and Julia and
So
Zoe.
fun.
Building at Zoe Church is just absolutely incredible. I respect you. I love you, and let's connect again soon, man. Thanks for having this conversation. It means a lot, and I hope everybody out there is encouraged,
Likewise. Love you, Pastor Gia. See ya.
bro.